Good evening, everybody. Greetings from the BFI in London on South Bank. Hello to everybody here in this wonderful, fabulous room, and hello to everybody watching all over the country at cinemas up and down the country. I imagine everyone's quite emotional after that. I know I was the first time I saw it. Please do get involved tonight using the hashtag Jawbone Live. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your questions for this wonderful collection of people that I'd love you all to put your hands together and welcome to the stage to some of the cast and filmmakers of Jawbone. You managed? Squeeze through. All right. Hello, Ray. You all right?
Lovely, thank you.
All right, with you? Buddy, you okay? Welcome. Sit down, gents. I would love to start, Johnny, by asking you how it feels to know that, well, to be in this room with people watching it, first of all, an audience, and know that there's an audience out there watching this film, first of all.
It's surreal, really. You know, the man who taught me to act, Craig Snelling, sat right there. I was skint as a young kid, you know, and I walked into Morley College round the corner. It was the cheapest acting classes, 40 quid for the whole term, I think. And I didn't even have the 40 quid. I said to him, I want to be an actor. And he went, right, follow me. You know, I went, I ain't got the money. He went, don't worry about that, follow me. I said, yeah, but he went, look, do you want to be an actor or not? I said, yeah. He went, well, follow me. I thought, no one's ever spoken to me like that. I thought, he's rude. Anyway, I followed him, and here we are now, man. I love you, Craig, and it's very, very surreal. My family are here. Just I always think an audience is a big part of storytelling, you know, and you get a different feeling sometimes with every viewing. And we've not had many of this yet, so it was really interesting to sit and watch it with an audience tonight, and I think you're as much a part of this as what's on the screen, I think, yeah.
Michael and Ray, you both see it sort of for the first time tonight, is that right?
Yeah.
I felt quite awkward being in that room when you all came in, because it was such a special moment for you coming in and reacting with Johnny and Michael with regards to seeing it for the first time. What's your reaction?
I'm still, my chest is still heaving from it, my stomach's really tight. I thought he might have lost in the end. But, because he wasn't listening to me. I kept saying, put your guard up and box him, and he was just fucking out larruping him. But then I'm sitting at the back, and I'm just in bits. I'm just crying, and then I realised I've got a Q&A after this. My mascara's running and everything. No, it was just where it all just came together. I didn't want to... I'd seen a few rough cuts, and by then I decided I didn't want to see it until it was the finished article, and I wanted to hear Paul Weller's music on it, and I wanted to see it all edited down, and I wanted to... And, you know, it just blew me away. It really just blew me away. I'm still sort of shuddering from it, you know. Just beautiful, just a beautiful, beautiful film.
Ray, what about for you?
I'd seen a rough cut of it, and so I knew we had a good film. I did, you know, and it's... I'm just the kid who goes to the cinema and watches films, and I'm like everyone else. If I like the film, I think most people usually do, you know? Because it's just that, and it tells a story. And I love stories about people, you know? And this was about people. And I believed it. You know, it wasn't like watching people perform, or it wasn't too busy. It was what it was. And I love films like that, you know? I mean, I like watching other films as well, but every now and then something really grabs you, and, you know, and watching it the first time with Paul's music on it as well, as you said, you know, just got it right, Paul, didn't you? You know, it was bang, you know, it was bang on. It was, and I loved the, you know, all of a sudden as I'm getting old, I'm sounding really technical, like I know what I'm talking about. You know, the camera was, the shots, the edit, and performances, you know. Your stuff, Belle, you know, with the boxing was some of the best fight scenes. Yeah, you know, some of the best fight scenes I've ever seen in a boxing film, including the Raging Bull, you know. I just think that's a film. You know, that's a film I want to watch again.
Yeah.
You know, and there's probably bits in it I've missed, and I read the script.
We'll talk about that in a second. Thomas, congratulations there in terms of, you know,
Thank
this.
you. Thank you.
You are there with him. You're, you know, the camera's part as a character within this film in terms of you never leave his side, really, in terms of not just physically but emotionally as well. And was that something from the off in terms of making sure that the camera was right in there with everything, be it, you know, those tender, beautiful moments where, you know, he's on his own, but also within the ring as well?
Yeah, I think it's definitely in the first person as a film. You're with Jimmy. It's not.
This microphone, if you wouldn't mind, because I don't think your
That's
mic's
fine.
working. Do you mind holding that?
Sure, do fight.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we tried to make a film in the first person, and we tried to make the film be a journey with him, where you were with him through those experiences, rather than observing him from outside of those scenes. And I think the very special situation, in fact, where Johnny has written the script and then is going to perform it, I think that was kind of one of the real kind of challenges of making the film. And then what we were really kind of going for ultimately in the way the film came together was to kind of take you inside his experience as much as possible. And then that carries through to the fight as well. So the fight is the kind of almost the most important parts of the fight, where you feel, you can almost feel the blows, you know, and it's not, you're not outside the ring watching it, you're really not only inside the ring, but you're inside his experience. Yeah.
And a lot of that was down to you, sir, Mr. McGuigan, wasn't it, Johnny?
Well, I mean, thank you very much. But first of all, I want to sort of doff my hat to the boys in the gym. Shane, Darryl and Steve, they all work really hard, so a round of applause for them. But Edith, it's down to him. He'd done 2 years of hard graft, and he just stayed in the distance, watched everything that was going on. We have a living, breathing business of training fighters morning, noon and night, and you know, these guys work 10, 12-hour days, working with guys, coaches, and you know, working with the pads, and over and over again, you know, getting drills and doing them right. And I think that Johnny just jumped out of the screen because he just looked the real deal. You know, I mean, for me as a fighter, when I look at boxing movies and I see stuff, and I know there has to be a little bit of artistic license, there have to be exaggeration, but I think we got it right. Thomas. And the quality was absolutely first class. And Luke Smith, you know, you can't have a guy looking this good without having a good opponent. He's a great young actor, brilliant part he played. So congratulations to him.
Johnny, this is such an important journey for you, and this story in particular as well, and really personal to you as well in terms of what boxing is meant to you as a kid and stuff as well. But what was the seed, and why did you feel like you wanted to write it down and write the script for it and take it on and play the role?
The initial, in truth, when I first started, it became something. It grew. There's Adam Smith who's here now, and this whole journey started. We were both kind of out of work or getting work, but not kind of the work we wanted to get. And he had a camera, like a freak. He was shooting a video, and he had a camera for the weekend. And he said, "Come on, let's make a short film." We ran down the Repton gym and made this little comedy thing, strange little thing, you know. And just because we had nothing else to do, and then Adam it evolved. Adam showed that around to some producers, and one of the producers, Mike Elliott, who's probably the sort of secret weapon to this whole film, really, you know. Mike Elliott, he really is. Listen, this is an industry built on lies, really, you know, like, and there's a lot of people who promise you the world. You know, you go down Soho House or whatnot, you know, and it's full of them, you know, and I was just very, very, very lucky that the one that Adam introduced me to was Mike Elliott, who's someone who a bit like, yeah. It's a bit like Bill in the film, you know. He doesn't say much, he just does it, you know. And I'd very cheekily turn around and go, you know, he'd say, well, who's going to train you for the film? I said, Barry McGuigan. And then he'd go out and kind of make it happen, you know, and put the deals together, which is the difficult part. So the truth is, when I first started writing it, I wasn't going to be the writer. It kind of, it's a long story, but it just evolved that. And then once I'd started the writing, then I started to realise that it was going to be a very personal story, and I just kind of kept following that. And I'd like to say as well, you know, I know Barry's just mentioned them, but the gym that I walked into, Shane McGuigan's gym, you know, and Barry said, I want to introduce you to my son before I say yes. And we went into that gym, and it's the gym where Carl Frampton, you know, he was in the audience tonight, yeah, you know, one of the great fighters that this...
Yo!
Yeah, you know. And all of those boys, you know, like that's when, and that was during the writing process. So, you know, I walked into that gym, and not only was it about the physical side of it and getting all of that, but over that 2 years, something happened, and that's when the story kept evolving. And it was kind of what I was seeing in that gym and what was evolving around that. And there's also a lot of other people in it, and we're kind of anonymous people, really. I can't say their names and stuff, but they all know who they are. And that was a big part of it as well. And the story just kept evolving and evolving. And I just kind of kept getting out the way of it, really. I think that was the process with this film, was getting out the way of it. And it almost felt like it wanted to make itself. And we were just very, very lucky with the people who came in and made that happen.
There's so much goodwill for this film as well, in terms of people are so excited that you've done this and it's out there for people to see, which must make you feel lovely and warm and wonderful, the reaction that you're getting from people.
Yeah, it's very humbling, you know, like, I mean, there would have been a time in my life years ago where I'd love to have taken a bow for it. I'd have loved to have stood up there and gone, yep, it's all me, it's me. And this is what the film's about. That's kind of what Jimmy would have loved at the beginning of the film. And I think by the end of the film, you realise you can't do this alone. You know, you can't do life alone. You need help. And the hardest thing sometimes is asking for help. And I've sat around for years moaning about scripts and moaning about the kind of work that was coming through, and scripts had come through, they want you to play gangster number 10 on the left, and, you know, and you're just like, it's not inspiring me, you know. And eventually I kind of started writing one and kept asking for help, whether that's ringing Ray up or to Paul Weller, you know. I couldn't believe that, you know. And the secret seems to be just ask for help, you know, and you find it.
Some great questions coming in on this giant iPad that I need glasses to read from, but that's all right. So some really, there's a lovely Dolly Dagger, wherever you're watching. Hi, Dolly Dagger. Johnny, did you always intend to play Jimmy, or did you consider anyone else?
No, I think there was a very short moment where I was thinking of maybe trying to direct it, and then I thought maybe I'd have to recast it, and but that was kind of shut down pretty quickly by the execs and Mike. And then, no, I kind of knew I wanted to play him. I knew I wanted to play him. I think I knew I wanted to get it right, you know. And when I say right, it might not be right for other people, but I wanted it to be my kind of experience of boxing and the people within that world. I didn't want it to be Hollywood's version of it. I didn't want it to be anything else. I wanted it to be authentic, and that's why Ray was so important to me. We used to speak when we did Snow White and the Huntsman together. We used to have long chats, dressed as dwarves. And, you know,
hold on a minute, just picture it.
You thought you had to write something.
And I did, that's right. And I, you know, but we would, and you know, we'd get emotional, you know, like talking about these men that Ray says. There's a whole group of guys in here from the Fitzroy Lodge Club that held me. Ray was at the Repton. You know, we were, you know, these are great men, you know, heroes, and. Like he says in the film, they changed lives, and they changed my life. And so I knew I wanted to write it, and I don't know if I could have trusted it with other people, and that's why I knew Ray had to play Bill. You know, it was just about trying to convince him. Yeah, you know.
I don't think it took much convincing, Ray.
No, it didn't, actually. It didn't take no convincing. In fact, I said yes before I even read the script. No, I did, because that's what I thought of Johnny, you know, and the passion that he has. And I just wanted a job, really. But then you get a script and you read it, and that's the script, and you go, what a touch, you know. Not only do I want to do it, but it's a great script, you know.
You know what Ray said to me?
Beautiful writing.
Do you know when I knew that we were going to be all right? And because I was worried, because the character I wrote him about was a lovely man called Mick Carney, who the film's dedicated to, and he never spoke much, Mick. He spoke, you know, and so how do you write that character at first? Anyway, I did it, and I got it on the page, and I was worried there wouldn't be enough lines, because some actors look at how many lines they've got. Anyway, Ray rang, he said he wanted to do it, and I said, what part, Ray? And he said, I like Bill. And I was like, oh. And I said, I was worried, Ray, that he didn't have enough lines for you. And he said, you know what, John? He said, those men didn't have to speak, did they? They spoke with their actions. And you know, when you just know, I just thought he's going to absolutely. He just knew the man, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only that though, you don't have to do too much homework when you get
The authenticity is so important to you, and that authenticity about the characters and their relationships is beautiful and perfect as well. And Michael, your character as well, and how that develops between the two of them as well throughout the film is
for me,
fantastic to watch.
Well, you know, when Johnny asked me and offered me the part, it was just like, I was bowled over. I'd heard he was doing something, and I heard it was a boxing film, and I'd, you know, being mates, you don't want to go, in case you go, no, you know. But, you know, there was some beautiful things happened. You know, what happened was that I ended up, Johnny put a word in with me with the Fitzroy Lodge, and I remember going down there. It was Mark Radgate. He's here tonight. Is Mark here?
Yes, yeah.
And somebody from the production office said to me, go down to Fitzroy Lodge about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I went, okay. And I never heard the person's name that I was supposed to meet, right? So I thought, they said Jim or something like that. So they said, you're going to the gym, but I heard fucking Jim, right? So I got down there, and as I'm walking over Lambeth Bridge, I could feel I'm a bit sweaty, like first day at school feeling, you know. I'd have walked into the gym, and there was about 5 or 6 boxers in there, and there's a lot of heat. The gym, especially under those arches, there's a lot of special heat that comes from our sweaty man heat, you know. And I opened the door, my glasses steamed up, and I went, I thought, I'll get myself together, get myself, and I went down the back, and Mark just sort of looks at you, and I went, yeah, my name's Smiley. I'm here to see Jim. And he's gone, now Jimmy, mate. And I'm going, no, it's Jim. It's Jim. And he's gone, no, mate. And he just left me till I went, well, who is it? And he was Mark, mate. And yeah, Mark will do. But he had me follow him around, and it was just brilliant. It was brilliant, and I really got what a gym's about. You know, I'd never really been to boxing gyms. I'd done a wee bit of boxing as a kid at school, but then I got it. I just got what it's about. That, you know, just the centre of people's universes. You know, it wasn't about men going and work. You know, giving it all that there, like you were doing Virgin Gym. You know what I mean? Tanning themselves up and doing their eyebrows. You know what I mean? This bloke came in one day and started taking photographs of himself after he'd been sparring. Then he went in and got changed, and he came out and he was taking photographs of himself. And I watched him. Mark rinsed him. It's not fucking Virgin Gym. Put your money in a box and get out. I heard him say that. I put that into the film. But yeah, it was just those places are just really special places, you know, and they're the hubs of communities, and they're people's past, future, and present. And it was a real honour to be part of it, you know. Really was.
That fight scene, how much prep went into that? Because you told me a great story about Barry, where you'd done it.
Oh yeah.
And you were like, oh.
Yeah, the first round. So obviously months and months of prep, because we knew we wanted to get it as real. The truth of it is, it wasn't just a testosterone thing where you're like, oh, we want to get it real. You know, it's a metaphor for kind of what's going on inside of Jimmy. Yeah. They say the candle flame burns brightest just before it goes out. You know, and I knew this man was going to ask for help. And so we had to see the ferocity of that thing that makes you go, help me, you know. And I think Bill's love also helped him get to that moment. But the fight had to represent that, you know, and as an audience you had to know what it was that makes him go, I've had enough, you know, and the victory. And so we knew we had to get it right. We knew we had to make it realistic. And as I've already said, the McGuigan spent 2 years kind of physically getting me ready, because you shoot it over 5 days, constant. But no, so Luke and I had done so much preparation with the wonderful stuntman Tom Lucy and Barry in the gym, just prepping it, and Thomas and his cameraman Tat. Once that was all done, we got to the location, And it was nerve-wracking, you know. We was ready to go, and we knew we had 5 days to smash hell out of each other. And so Luke and I, we did the first round, seconds away, round 1, and all the audience were amazing. The crowd up in, a lot of them are watching, and I'd like to do a big shout out. They'll all be up in Stoke and Birmingham. They were wonderful. Every day, every take, you know, they gave us everything. Some of them are here tonight. And we did the first round, and we went for it, you know. We crash, and the punches are landing, and, you know, and we're there, and me and Luke are going at each other and all of that, and they went, and cut. And the place erupted, you know, and the director, Thomas, come running out, went, it's amazing. My God, I've never seen anything like it on the monitor. It looks stunning. And people were coming through. Even Elliot cracked a smile, you know, like it was going on. And everyone was buzzing. And then out of the back of the crowd, I saw Barry come through, and he went, guys, it's just not good enough. You've got to up the ante, you know. And we're just like, what? My nose was hanging off. And, you know, he's a different breed, the man, you know. Like, he was, you know, this is Barry McGuigan, you know, the clone of Cyclone. And he's still got that, you know, and that's the true side of that. I'm joking, obviously, but that was true. And he just got us to raise the game and he kept us there for 5 days up, you know. And again, Luke Smith, you know, it was Barry McGuigan.
Was there ever a point where you were kind of like, I can't do it, you know, in terms of like the physicality of it, because you both went there, you know, you went for it.
No, there was injuries and stuff. I don't know. I don't know whether it was the love of the project. I don't know whether it was the adrenaline. I'm not sure. I mean, I'll tell you when I thought I can't do this was the day after. On the 6th day, I woke up and I knew the fight was over and we had it in the can.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what have I done? Like, we perforated the eardrum, and one of us got knocked out. We've got a gentleman's agreement, me and Luke. We're never going to say who it was. But, you know, one of us got sparked out. We saw stars loads, you know,
Wow.
and the nose went, and someone's rib went as well. Yeah, you know, it was heavy, but you know, you're doing what you love, you know. You kind of and the truth was, like I said, there's no point just doing that for the sake of it. It's to get the story right, you know. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, really. And I think we knew we were kind of getting that. Yeah.
There's some lovely responses from around the country. Julie says, I love that we were shouting, come on, Jimmy, at the screen as we were watching it. Would you get back in the ring for Jawbone too?
Paul Weller said it's going to be about a sumo wrestler. Put a bit of weight on, you know. Yeah, you know. It's funny, a lot of people have said it. I never wanted to tie it up in a neat bow, because this is a serious film and it's about a serious subject, which is addiction, you know. And people don't turn around and say, help me, and that's the end of the, you know, that's the beginning. And I didn't want it to be a film about someone winning a world title or winning the lottery or some fictitious Hollywood sort of answer to life's problems. You know, for this man to turn around and say, help me, and for him to maybe learn, you know, in that speech that he gives to Eddie in the dressing room before the fight, where he says, you know, you change lives, you know, you just turn up under that arch and you change lives. I think, you know, there's a sign that maybe Jimmy's at the beginning of learning that life's about helping other people. And that's a victory, you know. And so I wanted people to wonder. I don't want people to go, oh, and then it was happy ever after. That's why I love when the ballad kicks in and Paul says, where are you going to run now, Jimmy? You know, where are you going to go now? And I like to think that he goes somewhere beautiful. Maybe we'll explore it in another film. Yeah.
Awesome. Can we talk a little bit about the music and Mr. Weller, who's there?
Yeah.
But how did that come about, and at what point did it come into the
We had a wonderful man, Mark Baxter, who's an associate producer on this. He's one of my dear friends. He was one of only 3 people I trusted the first draft of the script with, because I didn't know if it was good, bad, terrible. I trusted Mark with it because he's from where I'm from, that area, and I wanted to see if I got the spirit of it right. So I gave it to Mark and didn't think much of it. Mark coincidentally went to like an invited audience only gig that Paul threw at Maid of Vale Studios, about 50 people. And afterwards, Paul was doing one of these things, and the guy interviewing him said, Paul, is there anything, you know, 4 decades of music and challenges and so much evolution as an artist, is there anything you've not done, anything that still maybe excites you? And Paul said the magic words. He said, I've not scored a film. He said, and if I find the right script, I'd like to do that. And Mark had just read my script. And he gave it, he went up and said those words that no one ever really wants to hear, but my mate's written a script, you know. Normally means it's terrible, you know. And I think Paul's manager gave it, Claire gave it to Paul, and Paul's dad, John Weller, was a great amateur boxer as well, you know. And so I think something obviously triggered inside Paul, yeah. And he,
Bit of it himself, didn't he?
And Paul, yeah. Paul could have it. Steve Craddock, one of the great guitarists, reckons they was having a little toy box once, and Paul put him over the sound desk. And but anyway, the serious point was, I should say this: at the time, we had no budget in place, we had no finance in place. What we had was a script, a producer, and myself, you know, and because of, I don't know, you'd have to ask Paul really, but we ended up, we had a meeting arranged in Bar Italia. And we both went, both polished our shoes, as you do, you know, you're like, flipping hell, man, it's Welly, you know, and we went along, and I should say this, when I wrote this, because I wasn't a trained writer, so I just thought, how am I going to do this? And I made a playlist of music that I took away with me just to evoke certain moods for certain scenes that I wanted to create. There was 24, 25 songs maybe on the list, and 6 of them were Paul Weller songs. That was before we met, and it was very surreal, very, very surreal. Barry McGuigan was my hero growing up. It's very strange what happened with this film. Something weird happened. But I met Paul, and we sat and we had a chat. And the weirdest thing was, because we was talking about the film and the character and what we was trying to do, and I was using his lyrics to try and explain what it was I was trying to get. So I'd sort of say, you know, when like when you wrote "Hung Up," you know, and like, you know, or like "Where'er You Go," like in "Where'er You Go," when you say that line, you know, "Where'er you go, that we'll never know. As long as you come back, that's all that really matters." That's Bill. That's Bill. As long as you come back, son, that's all that really matters, you know? We know you're mad, but we love you, you know? and I was sort of... So we had this kind of very interesting chat in Bar Italia, and to my surprise at the end of it, he went, "I'll see you soon." Like, and 3 weeks later, I think the first demo started coming through. It was amazing, and I love the man, you know? He's changed me. He's changed my life as a man, not only as an artist. His work ethic is unbelievable. Like, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning. "Johnny, it's Paul, mate. I'm in the studio. Yeah, listen, I've got another idea, mate. I'm here with Craddock. We're going to record it now. I'm sending you in an hour. Tell me what you think." You're like that. It's, you know, he just loves it. He has an insatiable appetite to create, you know.
I'm going to go and ask him, actually. Do you mind if I come in just quickly ask you a quick question? Can I have that microphone, please? Sorry. Hi, Paul. I'm so sorry to do this to you, but you're here and I can't not ask you. Can we stand up? Do you mind? Let's stand up. And then everyone can see. Paul Weller, everyone. What was it about the script? What made you want to do it?
Him, for a start, because
Yeah.
he was so, like Ray said, because he was so obviously dedicated and serious about the project, you know. And then also because he's better boxing, so my old man, you know, he's a boxer. Alcoholism, which, you know, I've been touched by as well. But I knew Johnny was serious about it, you know, and I like where he was coming from and how he wanted it to look. And it wasn't going to be another Rocky and all that nonsense, so it kind of suited where I was at as well.
And what about for you in terms of jumping into something new? Like you said, the thing you've not done is a film score, and you did it your own way in a very particular way as well, and the results are fantastic, and it's such a beautiful marriage of visuals and sound.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I imagined, right from the first time that Johnny told me the kind of idea of the film, I had a kind of, sort of very kind of set idea, which I know is asked about face, you know, because normally you have to put the music to the picture. But I had a very kind of clear idea what I thought it should sound like, you know, and I was thinking more kind of experimental and more soundscape as opposed to songs, you know. And I thought it'd be different for that kind of film, you know. And also for a lot of London-based films where they always have big drums and, you know. So I thought something away from that, really. And I like the idea that sometimes the music would be at odds with the picture as well. Sometimes harmonious and sometimes at odds, you know, like the film itself, you know. Yeah. And it also, musically, is kind of unresolved, again, like the film, you know. You don't know where he goes after that.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely brilliant. I'll let you sit back down. I'm sorry to jump on you, but I couldn't. Paul Weller, everyone. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I think I'll use the stairs for coming back up, actually. There we go. Right, can we talk a little bit about casting the film, if that's all right? Because you talked about Ray and kind of almost Ray knowing the part that was meant for him and Michael as well. But all those people around that make up that group of people and that authenticity, was that easy to find and was it easy to put together? Who wants to?
You've got, I'll grab, shall I grab that?
Yes, sorry, I forgot your mic's broken.
That's all right.
Sorry.
All right.
Here we go.
Is it on? Is it on?
Yeah.
We talked a lot while Johnny was training at Barry's gym, we talked a lot about how to build the film, and a lot of, like Johnny was saying, a lot of what was happening inside the gym while he was training was sort of feeding into the script, and it was a really interesting process, you know, kind of actually. We put the script up on the walls, and we had all the images up on the walls, and we sort of became part of the fabric of the gym, and we're upstairs, and Johnny would train for a couple of hours and then come upstairs, and it was sort of, like Johnny said, it was almost like the film found itself, and the casting, in a way, all of it kind of came out of that process. It was sort of Michael. It just felt like Michael was a perfect foil for Johnny, Eddie for Jimmy. That they kind of their relationship, their friendship. It wasn't clear cut that they were, you know, what had happened before, and they had history, and also, you know, these guys have history as well. They have a relationship, so it felt once we'd found Michael that it couldn't be anybody else, and in a lot of ways, all of the cast was like that. Once we'd made that decision, there's not a huge cast anyway. There's only a few characters, but it felt as though it couldn't be anybody else once we'd made that decision.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing feeling. I think amazing feeling to have when you're doing a creative endeavour, is that feeling of once you'd made the decision that there was no other decision was possible. So. It's just a great process and a real honour to work with these guys, you know.
There's a lovely message come in actually with regards to Ian McShane. I'm just trying to find it, which is someone saying, did you have him in mind when you were writing it? I'm just trying to find the person that said that.
100%.
Yeah.
Again, Ian was one of the other dwarves in Snow White and the Huntsman. Nick Frost was here tonight. He's had to dash off. But Nick Frost was one of the others. He was here tonight. Mr. McShane, who's on a beach now in LA, by the way.
Of course he is.
I'd love to be there with you all, but it's boiling hot here, and I'm not coming. No, he's a lovely man. He's busy in LA with promoting his film American God. So. But Ian, again, is a man who, when I met him, I just had a profound respect for him. There was a film called Villain that he did in the 60s, which I adored. And so when I worked for him, it wasn't lost on me. And I just knew when I was writing Joe, I just didn't know if he'd do it, because it's one scene. I wrote it as one scene. It was Ian who insisted on coming back for the funeral scene. He said Joe would be there for Bill's funeral. And he came and done that for nothing. But the casting, the guy who plays Damien Luke, the opponent, the guy who plays his trainers, Nigel Travis. I boxed with Nigel as a kid. He's another Fitzroy Lodge boy. He runs the Moss. He's like these guys in the film. He runs the Moss Side Boxing Club for kids now, and so he was up in the West Midlands where we filmed all the interiors. So he came and played the trainer and did a great job for us. But there was none of this sort of nonsense casting stuff, you know. Like what was lovely about it. Obviously with Ray and with Ian, but with Michael and that, there was none of this stuff where people have to go into a classroom and flip in, do a scene that they've been given the night before. You know, we're all actors, man. We've been around, and I hate that side of the business, if I'm honest. And so I just wanted to make it with a group of people who I really respected and not have any of that nonsense. And so the one character we were struggling with was Eddie, Michael's character. And the reason being was because I wrote it as a homage to a lovely man called Bill Webster, who in real life was in his 80s. Yeah. The truth is, we dedicated this film to the wonderful Chris Collins of the BFI, who's passed on now, and Mick Carney, who's passed on. I could have had another list, you know, of men like these great men, Freddie Hill, all of these people. But the point is, the character Bill was always going to be the lieutenant trainer, the man who's been a lieutenant all his life and then has to come forwards and has all of his own fears going into that fight. And Bill knows that. I always thought that Bill knew that these men needed each other, you know, and that's why he forces them to be together, even though they kind of don't like each other, or there's old resentments there. And so with that in mind, we were struggling, because I was thinking there's not many 80-year-old actors that could do what Bill Webster did. There's not many men that could do it, let alone actors. And we thought, we're going to struggle here. We're really going to struggle. And Michael and I have a long, long friendship, a very deep one. We've gone to some amazing places together in life. I love this man, and he's one of the finest actors working today in this country. We were sat in the room, Thomas and I, talking about stuff on the film, and he said, look, about the Bill character, I've had a thought. And I said, yeah, go on. And I was very protective over it, but I said, yeah, go on. And he said, how do you feel about making him younger? And I thought, right. And by that point, we had Ray on board, we had Barry and Paul, and everyone was involved. Ian was on board, I think. So we started to have people coming after us a bit now, and I thought they're going to go for a big name, and I wanted it to be right. And I said, who are you thinking of? And he went, well, there's this really interesting actor. He's done some amazing work. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Michael Smiley. I couldn't believe it. I just went, I thought there was some sort of... So there was none of these, you know, there was none of this nonsense of, you know, going through casting sessions or any of that, you know. It was a phone call, and I rang him up, and I said, Michael, I said, you know, would you like to come and do the project? Now he says, I said yes there and then. He flipping never. He made me wait a couple of hours. Let me read the script. I'll get back to you, Johnny. You know.
The only reason I did that is when you ring Johnny Harris, it always goes on the answer machine. So I just thought I'm going to put him on answer machine for a while.
I have to tell you, he was really brilliant. I mean, apart from Ray, who's you know, had 40-odd fights and knew the business back to front. You know, it was the first time Michael actually sort of was coaching and whatever, but he came down and looked like really the part from the very beginning.
I was definitely down to the Fitzroy Lodge with Mark. Mark Raggy had done a number on me. So he'd come in and he was going, okay, he says, I think the key question when he said to me, have you done a bit of boxing before? And of course your ego wants to say, well, yeah, I've done a bit. You know, and my head went, say no. Because it'll get painful after this. So I went, no, I haven't. And he went, right. So he got me into the ring, and he started getting me. He says, because you got to walk like a boxer, you know. So I was doing this thing, and he was like, "Good, you keep crossing your legs. Stop crossing your legs." And he looked at me and went, "It's not a fucking jig." Because the Paddy in me goes, oh, right. So I got to the stage, I just kept crossing my bloody legs. So he went to me at one stage, he went to me, did you play Cowboys and Indians when you were a kid? And I went, yeah. He says, show me how you rode your horse. And I went, he says, yeah, stop smacking your arse and that's how you do it. And these two lads came in and he went, he called them over and he says, get gloved up. This is a top trainer from Belfast. He's going to take you through the pad work. And he went, good luck and got out of the frigging way. So I just had to front it out. And I learned through that. Just beautiful. Wow. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Fitzroy Lodge.
Amazing. There's a lovely question that's come in from Adam, who says, what role does sport, but boxing in particular, play in your lives? And how important are boxing clubs and gyms for young people? It's a great question. Barry, do you want to pick up on that?
Well, I mean, like the Fitzroy Lodge, you've got the Holy Trinity, you've got the Holy Family, you've got the Midland Club in Belfast, you've got Monkstown, and really these are just fantastic little, you know, very, very important parts of the communities where, you know, in Northern Ireland, sort of, I know it's all gone now to an extent, but it saved lives over there. Young kids that were, you know, were fodder for paramilitary groups would go to amateur boxing clubs and they would literally save their lives, and they would keep them on the straight and narrow. And you know, we use a euphemistic term. It's great for hard to reach kids. You know, kids that are tough and hard to get through to, and often don't have two parents, only have a mum. And for them, boxing clubs offer a dad. The coach, you know, Ray and Michael often become their surrogate fathers, and they keep them on the straight and narrow. They give them something to focus on. For many of these kids, they've never achieved anything in their lives. The school has been a disaster. They've got no education. They're tough kids, but they get bullied and everything else. And so boxing gives them discipline and gives them a beginning, middle and end to something. And often they don't go to the very top, but they get to, you know, area championship or national final, and some of them go to internationals. And for them, this is a part of it gets them back on the straight and narrow. They realise that by investing my energy in something, it can actually come good, and there's something that's proved to be right, and then they can go on from there and get into a job or get something and achieve it. And you know, the sense of achievement when you're in an amateur club, that's just happening all over the country. And people like, you know, Ray and the characters they play, they're heroes, and nobody ever mentions their names and never get, you know, the MBEs or the OBEs or whatever. And these guys deserve, some of these guys deserve knighthood. They really have, they've given their lives to boxing.
I'd just add to that, you know, like Mickey Carney, who you know, he got me my first apprenticeship, and it went beyond boxing. You know, and there were some kids, like Barry said, who wouldn't have had the ability. I always loved that thought that Eddie's character, you know, maybe never had the ability of Jimmy, but had the, Mick Carney used to say, it's not sometimes about your ability, son, it's about your availability. So it was a beautiful sentiment, that, you know, and I wasn't going to school. I left school like 13. I was hardly going then, to be honest. And I think my mum, who's here tonight, rang Mick and sort of said, Mick, I don't know what to do with him. And he got me an apprenticeship as a locksmith, you know, and this is the kind of place. He'd had a chat with Bill, who used to go to the club, and Bill ran a locksmith shop, you know, it was, and, but what I'd also say is it's not just boxing clubs, you know, and not just sporting clubs, in answer to the question. I called it the Union Street Boxing Club. I didn't call it the Fitzroy Lodge. I called it the Union Street Boxing Club because Union Street Theatre was a similar thing for me as a young actor. You know, I didn't go to a big school. There was nowhere, I couldn't afford RADA or something like that. I went to my local fringe theatres, which again were these kind of decrepit old railway arches that Sasha Regan and people like Michael Kingsbury, they're running these kind of little places where people like me who think, I want to be an actor or I want to be a boxer, you can go and try it out, you know, and these places are fundamental. And they all seem to be struggling for funding. I don't want to get too political, but, you know, they always seem to be struggling for funding, these places, you know, and they're massively important, and places like Morley College. Yeah, you know.
There's someone on has gone in touch and said, Poetry87 says, as a Southeast Londoner, it's great that you're treating the subject that's rife in our area right now and drawing attention to it, which is wonderful to hear, you know, real people kind of connecting with this film.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions coming in about the fight and about choreographing that, but also a lot of questions about how much prep for you went into being ready for this role, you know, physically, in terms of what that involved.
We did 2 years. We got another great fighter here, Conrad Cummings, who's just won a European title. And when this journey started, Barry said to me, we had a coffee, and he introduced me to Shane, and he said, "Oh, we've just signed a new fight. He's making his debut at the York Hall in a little 4-round fight at York Hall." And that was the beginning of this journey years ago. And I went over there that night and watched the first fight I'd watched in years, to be honest, because I'd fallen out of love with boxing in a way. And so what it did was, and that was the beginning of the journey. And I'm very proud to say I just saw Conrad, he won the European title, which is amazing. We've gone on a journey together, you know. You know, and so that was over. I'd love to know when that fight was, Conrad, because that'll tell you when we started this journey. But I think it's a good couple of years that we did it. And then I went away, obviously, as we were trying to fund it and everything. I'd go away and do an acting job. I went up north, and then we got the green light, and we had 6 months of kind of solid, every day, twice a day. And someone who I've not mentioned yet, one of the key figures in this film getting made was Sandra McGuigan, who's kind of really, you know, you got this great group of men in the McGuigan family, tough men, but she's the governor, is the truth of it. You know? And Sandra, we never had a production office. We didn't have a production office sort of thing, you know. And one day I just mentioned it to Sarah. I said, "Oh, you know, we've got to try and find an office where we can work out of." And sure, there's one upstairs, you know. And she'd speak to the local guy, and next thing we was in this like immense space, like massive, you know, and we had all our photos up on the wall and pictures and the script up on the wall. And then I'd go down into the gym of a day and train, and then come up and do development work with Mike and Thomas, it was an amazing setup, and that was all down to Sandra. So I think...
She's here somewhere, where is she?
Is Sandra
Sandra?
in? She's here? Yeah, there you go.
Stand up, Sandra, take a bow.
So including all of that stuff, the process, we was over 2 years with that beautiful group of people. And then the last 6 months was twice a day, every day, and then in between that we'd go upstairs and work on that. So a good sort of, 6 months maybe.
Were there a certain group of people or certain people that you trusted with the script in terms of, being your first script and wanting feedback and getting people to tell you you know, give you advice? Were,
Yeah.
were there certain people you trusted with that?
I think I know where you're leading, but we
Sandra might have told me this story.
Okay, right, yeah. Well, listen, there's probably the greatest actor on the planet. Certainly, one of them is Daniel Day-Lewis, and I think that's the one you mean. But you know, because I should say, just give a little shout to our exec producers. You know, I'd kind of gone into this as a first-time writer and whatnot, ready for a fight, to be honest. Excuse the pun, but I just thought that they were going to try and rip my script apart and tell me how to write this story and turn it into some Hollywood schlock that I didn't want to do. And I was ready for that, and I sort of, you know, and I was waiting for it, and it kind of never happened. We had like Nicola Martin from the BBC, who I used to enjoy getting her notes, the truth of it. I used to relish them. They were just great notes, and Rupert and the guys from Vertigo, they just backed us all the way, you know. And they'd disagree sometimes, and they'd say, well, what about this and what about that? And if you had an answer, they'd go, okay. And they kind of seemed to know that we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so that was enough. And but then on top of that, Daniel Day-Lewis was preparing for a film role, and he was studying to be a tailor. And it just so happened to be that he was working with my tailor, Tom, who rang me up and went, listen, Daniel Day-Lewis is here. Now, when Daniel Day-Lewis made The Boxer, which Barry trained him for, which is one of the reasons I wanted to work with Barry, I knew he'd work with the best and understood film. A lot of people don't know that Daniel, I think Barry sent him down there to the Fitzroy Lodge, my old club, and he fell in love with Mick Carney, the man who this is written about, and Mick fell in love with him, and they had a lifelong friendship after, and Daniel is the patron of the club today. And so the tailor mentioned to Daniel, I've got a guy, a customer, Johnny Harris, he's written a script about the Fitzroy Lodge, and about Mick, and Daniel was like, wow, okay. And anyway, Tom rang me up and said, listen, Daniel wants to actually make a suit. He wants to be there for an actual fitting. And I was getting a suit made at the time. He said, do you mind it being yours? I was like, I'm on my way. Bill the butcher's going to make me suit, you know. So I went over and we had like a 3-hour chat about it, and we both got emotional talking about Mick. Yeah. And it was just a lovely meeting. And it was already cast the film. There was no thing about him being in the film or anything. But he said, do you mind if I read your script? And I said, I'd love you to, thank you. And I gave him the script. And about 4 days later, he called back. And it was always on the condition, he said, I'm not going to give you any notes or anything like that. I just want to read it, you know, for me. Is that all right? And I said, yeah. And he's a massive fan of the McGuigan family, you know. This family, when they take you in, they take you in, you know. And I know they took him in, and I'm blessed with the same thing. And he rang me up, and we had a 2-hour conversation, and he gave me, like, the best note anyone's given me. I've not told anyone a note, really, and I don't know if I should, or whether it'll mean anything to anyone else. But at the time, I think the execs and some people who were helping with it were saying, we might need to know more why the character's like he's like. We might need him to explain it more and stuff like that. And I was wrestling with that, and I thought, I don't know about that. And then Daniel rang, and he was the only one who sort of said, go the other way. He said, you're giving him the gift of tongues. Beautiful phrase, that. You're giving him the gift of tongues. I like it more when he can't explain what it is that's wrong with him. And I knew that was the right way to go. And also, you know, some people were interested in knowing where all his family were, or having something to blame it on. Yeah. And sometimes with addiction and with alcoholism, there's nothing to blame it on. It's an illness. It's an illness. And if there's anyone to not blame it on, but to look at, it's the person themselves. You've got to go within. And Paul, I think I heard the ballad then as well. Right at the same time that Daniel gave me that note, the ballad came through, and there was a lovely line, where's of your loved ones, Jimmy? Where's of your loved ones, Jimmy? And I just thought, I like the fact that there's nothing to pin this on. It's not because he's this, or because he's that, or because he's from there, or because this has happened to him. You know, he's the problem. The problem lies within him. And all he needs to really do is ask for help. And so Daniel gave me a great note, and very grateful. He's in the thank you credits for that. Yeah.
It's been a wonderful night. Thank you so much for your time. I could talk to you all for absolutely hours, but we have to finish there, I'm afraid. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions, wherever you are. Please give a huge round of applause.